Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is DESZREN. Most people call me Des. Feel free to call me whichever. If you're new to my channel, welcome. Today I'm going to be talking about preventing thinning locks because ever since I started taking new clients a few months ago, I've had some situations where people have come to me and the person that they were going to before just jacked their hair up, or they started their locks, didn't really know how to properly maintain or take care of them, and now their locks are thinning, or they've had to combine some, they've gotten lock extensions and the person didn't do it the right way. Just so many different reasons as to why their hair is breaking and thinning and falling off. So I wanted to share with you guys 8 different ways you can prevent thinning locks. I got a lot to say, y'all, because it upsets me. It upsets me especially when someone is trusting a loctician to do their hair and you can just tell they only care about making some money. They don't really care about the person's scalp, their hair, their journey. And it's just very frustrating that there's really people out there like that just jacking these people's heads up. So anywho, let's just get into it, y'all. The biggest thing that I have realized is one of the common denominators with my clients who have thinning locks or people that have reached out to me is that they are wearing super tight styles or pulled back styles. As you guys may know, even if you're a loose natural and you're wearing tight styles, pulled back styles, you can get traction alopecia, your hair can break off, it can become very, very brittle and very weak and just plain damaged. Now, when it comes to locks, you'll notice that your new growth might be very sparse. You might realize that the lock is just too much weight on the new growth, or you might also experience some parts of your actual lock that has began to mature or is already matured super thin and worn down. Tight styles and styles where your hair is pulled back causes tension on your scalp and on your hair. So if you're wearing a style, you have it in for months and months at a time, or one of your go-to styles is to put it up in a ponytail or to put it in a bun, even a low bun, it's still gonna cause that tension on your scalp and your hair, and ultimately your locks will thin out. It's not something that's going to happen very fast. You will notice it over time. A lot of the times when my clients come to me and their locks are thinning, they usually are already a few years, if not more than 5 years in. I don't want you guys to think that you can never wear certain styles. Just do it in moderation. The next thing I want to talk about specifically is lock extensions. Now, everyone has their different reasons as to why they want to have lock extensions, why they installed them. Maybe they just weren't feeling the whole awkward, baby lock stage. They just wanted to have long locks right out the gate. It's your business. It's, I don't care why. I just care about how you maintain and how you take care of them. If you're going to get lock extensions, please go to a professional. Go to someone who actually knows what they're doing. And I see it on social media all the time. Okay, personally, I do not even do lock extensions because I know my limits, I know what I'm capable of, and I know what I actually want to do. But I've seen so much on social media. People are installing lock extensions that are like this thick on fine, low density hair. That just makes no sense at all. There's different methods to install lock extensions, right? Now, if someone is wrapping hair over your locks super tight to make the lock extension blend with your hair, yeah, it might look nice for a while, but I've had a client come to me with jacked up lock extensions. And whoever did this woman's hair wrapped the hair super duper tight and just kept adding on hair when it was like falling apart or falling off. So you had this big old clump of weight of the lock extension connected to her fine hair. fine, soft hair. It just was a hot mess. Like, it really was just a hot mess because, like I was saying before, too much weight on your hair will cause damage, will cause your hair to fall out, and before that it's going to start thinning. So just be cautious, be aware of the size lock extensions that you are getting. Is it appropriate for your hair density? Is it appropriate for your hair type? And is it appropriate for the size lock that you have or want? Because some people already have locks and then they just get the lock extensions. Some people start off with just lock extensions. So there's obviously, you know, different ways and different times where you can get lock extensions. And also, do not be afraid to ask your loctician or whoever is doing your hair, what method are you going to be using to install these lock extensions? Personally, I think the best method is the most simple method is when you comb out one end of the lock extension, you comb out the end of your own lock if you already have locks, and then you sandwich it together and then you crochet it. There's really no need to add extra hair if you already have the lock extension the appropriate size for that person's locks. Y'all could argue, y'all could disagree, whatever. That's just my personal opinion, and from the different methods that I've seen, I think that is the best method. I don't think it's necessary to braid the hair and then take extra hair and then wrap it around. Like, to me, that's just way too much, and it ultimately just will create weak spots in your hair, in your lock, and then it's just not gonna look cute whatsoever. Now, the third thing, which kind of piggybacks off of the lock extensions, is putting protective styles over your locks. I've done this one time with my last set of locks, and I was maybe like 7 months into my lock journey. I can't even, honestly, I really don't even know, but I was definitely more than 5 months in. I should have waited much longer to actually do a protective style. If you are gonna do protective styles, wait until your hair is like mature and where you don't have like loose hairs hanging off your locks, because if you're gonna do a style, for example, like faux locks over your actual locks, the hair that you are wrapping around your locks and the faux lock will stick to your starter locks if you are doing them while you have starter locks and you have the loose hairs and everything. This happened to me, and I honestly felt like I was like pulling out some of my hair. It didn't cause any significant damage to my hair doing the protective style because I only had it in for a couple weeks, but I definitely should have waited much longer. I also think I would have had a much easier time uninstalling the faux locks as well. That was really the biggest issue, because the loose hairs and the hair that I needed to wrap around the faux lock to make it a faux lock were like sticking together, and it was really difficult to take down that style. And I also have been seeing a lot of people putting box braids over their locks, and it terrifies me because the person is just gripping the hair so tight to make the braid look neat. And I get it. You want the style to look clean. You want it to look neat. You trying to be out here and popping. Like, trust me, I get it. I understand. Not only is it going to cause them to thin, but if you have a protective style like box braids over your locks, it's going to create indents and it's going to alter the shape of your locks. But if you're someone that likes to do protective styles often, or even maybe just a couple times a year, and you have locks, most of the time you're keeping a protective style in for a month and a half. Some people stretch it to even 2 months. So that's actually a lot of stress and a lot of tension on your locks. So you might notice after maybe a year of doing some protective styles over your locks that they're not as full as they used to be. They're a little bit weak in some spots, and some of them might have even broken off depending on how tight the style was and how thin your locks already are too. That's another thing you need to think about when you're doing a protective style, is the size of your locks already. Do you have thick locks? Do you have really tiny, small, skinny locks? For those that already have very small locks, you need to be extra careful with just about everything you do, because now your hair is already super skinny. Say you put a protective style over that, you're thinning it out even more. Think about how much stress that is over time. Think about how suffocating that is to your locks. It's not good. it's not gonna end well. It's not gonna be pretty whatsoever. So keep those things in mind: the size of your locks, how long you're gonna keep the style in. Obviously less time is better. I understand it's a protective style, but locks are a protective style as it is. So yeah, you might want to try something new, but it is not necessary to wear a protective style over your locks for an extended amount of time. The fourth thing I want to talk about is people that do not like to wrap their hair up. And I get it. You may get headaches from wearing a scarf, or you don't like having something over your head while you sleep. That is fine, but there are alternatives. Get a satin pillowcase. They even make beanies that are satin lined now if you want something that's a little bit more comfortable, maybe not as tight around the hairline, around your head. There are alternatives, so please do your research and find what works best for you. But you need to keep your hair wrapped up, especially when you're laying down, when you're about to go to sleep, if you're taking a nap. If your hair is gonna be on something and it's gonna cause some kind of friction for an extended amount of time, wrap your hair up. Why? Because if you do not wrap your hair up, and let's say you have a cotton pillowcase, or maybe you have some throw pillows on your couch and you nap on your couch a lot. Cool. I do that. That's why I said it. I'm looking at the pillow right now. Over time, if you're constantly creating this friction between your hair and another kind of material, your hair will become very, very, very dry and can eventually break off if it is so dry. And you might have some super long locks, some really short ones. They're going to be all different lengths. It's just not going to be aesthetically pleasing, first of all, and ultimately you're just simply not preserving the health of your hair. The fifth thing that I want to talk about, and is probably the most like obvious thing, is retwisting too often. And y'all, I get it. Trust me, I get it. You want that crisp look every single time, every 2-3 weeks. You want your hair to be popping. You got places to be, people to see. Like, I get it, I understand. You have locks. Locks are not meant to look clean all the time. They are not. I promise you, it is okay. You do not need to retwist that often, especially if you're going to someone who is palm rolling your hair. A lot of people tend to palm roll the entire length of the lock, which is super unnecessary. You really only need to palm roll whatever has unraveled and stick close to the roots. Some people, obviously, if you're in your starter lock phase, you might have to palm roll down the length of the hair because it unraveled so much. Fine, cool, whatever. But for those whose hair is pretty much locked up already, you do not need to focus on the length of your hair when you are palm rolling. And if the person that's doing your hair is palm rolling the length of your hair every single time, tell them to cut that shit out, because it is unnecessary, and that pressure and that tension is going to cause weak locks over time. Extending that amount of time between your retwists allows your hair to get frizzy, to swell up, especially if you're in your starter lock phase, to butt up, all those good things that you want to happen to your locks, all the necessary things. For those who have just started their locks, I tell some of my clients, you know, I might see you in 2 weeks, I might see you in 3 weeks for your first or maybe even second retwist. For me, that's pretty normal because the hair just unravels so easily. You want it to stay in formation, so I get it. But once you hit like that 2-3 month mark, you definitely want to extend the time between your retwists, just so you get used to not retwisting so often, and so you can actually allow your hair to go through the necessary stages and process of locking up. The sixth thing I want to talk about is product buildup. And I bet you're thinking, Des, how can product buildup cause thinning locks? And I'm gonna tell you how. For my people that go the more traditional route of starting their locks and the person used wax, or they use wax in their hair, or they use a really thick ass petroleum jelly products, whatever, in your hair, that is a lot of weight over time, especially if you're using that kind of thick product every single time you retwist. And let's say you're the type of person who also uses other products like conditioner or a leave-in conditioner or creams and stuff. I don't know your business, but you might be doing that. If you're doing this, very often, locks attract everything. Things get stuck in locks very easily. It's matted hair. There's really not much else you can expect, right? Which is fine, you know, it's normal. There's processes to get buildup and things like that out of locks. But if you're doing things like that using products, heavy products, thick products like that over time for a long time, it is going to build up in your hair. And a lot of times people's locks are only being held together by that product buildup, especially if they're using wax. What was I talking about earlier? Too much weight on the scalp. If you have these spots in your lock that are just super hard and thick and you can feel the product in your lock, you could see it, it's white or it's like a gray cloudy color, that is super unhealthy for your locks. And think about how much weight that is on that one particular spot on your head. Now look at your entire head of hair and then multiply it by however many locks you have. That is a lot of weight on your scalp, and over time your locks may appear much more thinner than what you started with because you have all this buildup that you've never detoxed, you never got rid of, still stuck in your hair, just adding more weight on your scalp. So yes, your locks can for sure become thin because you have too much product buildup in your hair. But that is why we do detoxes. So if you want to check out a detox, what a lock detox looks like, I have done one on myself, so I'll put that in the cards for you to check out above. The seventh thing that I want to talk about, which a lot of people come to me and this has happened to them, or when I'm doing their locks, I can literally tell that this has happened to them, is interlocking. And now a lot of you guys swear by interlocking. Me, I'm like, miss me with that interlocking BS. Like, I don't want no parts. I will never interlock. I don't even want to, no, like, just get out of here. Just get out of here. I'm not a fan whatsoever. If you don't know what interlocking is, you're basically creating a knot at the roots of the lock so it does not unravel ever. So it's good for people that, you know, live a very active lifestyle, they're doing a whole lot, or maybe they just have a hair type that doesn't really hold a regular retwist that well. Everyone's reasonings are different, whatever. I'm just not a fan of it because it just creates such weak spots in your lock, and a lot of the times locticians, whoever is doing it, doesn't really do it properly, or they don't do it fully. It's like a whole 8-point process, I believe, but they just don't do it properly, and it ultimately creates a very, to me, weird looking lock, because you'll see like the knots back to back, and then maybe the person didn't get interlocked for, you know, a couple months, so then it'll be really fat and full, which is how your lock is supposed to be, nice and full, not really like tight and compacted like that. Yes, the lock is supposed to be tight and compacted, but I will see if I can like plug in a picture. I don't know why it was so hard to find a picture of what exactly I was talking about, but this is what interlocking can make your hair look like. You see the knot, how it's split at the root. Your hair is not supposed to be that way. As you can see, that knot that's right there, if they were to get their hair interlocked right after that, that knot would stay there looking like that. And then you see the rest of the lock, how it gets skinnier. You're not supposed to have inconsistency like that with your locks. But it just looks so knotted and lumpy compared to a nice, smooth, you know, as smooth as possible, because it's a lock. It's going to be lumpy and bumpy, but a nice, smooth, uniform lock. Once the interlock grows out and they, you know, they get it done back to back, it's like a knot, and then it's like a little space, and then like another knot, and like a little space. It just creates such weak points in the lock, and eventually your hair will become very thin if it's not already thin in the spots that have been interlocked. And ultimately, your lock should not be that inconsistent when it comes to the size of one single lock. Some people are still going to get their hair interlocked, which is your business, not mine. I'm just letting you know what could happen, what will most likely happen. Some people have never had issues. awesome. You must have found a really bomb loctician who just finessed your hair, but not everyone is that fortunate. So please just continue doing your research, and if you know anyone, just ask them, hey, what was your experience like? Do you feel like your locks are damaged? Do you feel like they're weak? You know, don't be afraid to ask people questions, because ultimately it is your hair and it's about the health of your hair at the end of the day. And lastly, I want to talk about genetics and age, because some people have been in the lock game for like 20 years and they're talking about, why is my hair thinning? Like, oh my gosh, my locks are so weak. Like, baby. So it is very normal for your locks to get fat in the starter lock phase, and then, you know, they're gonna compact a little bit more as they mature. They get into the adult phase, and then when you get older, I'm talking about older, like a couple decades older, you know, maybe even 8 years depending on when you started, they might thin out a little bit, but they shouldn't thin out to the point where it's like they're falling off kind of thing. And if they are thinning out to the point where it is falling off kind of thing, it's probably just your actual hair thinning out and saying, deuces, it's time to go. Like, you might just be at that age where locks are no longer for you, or having all that weight on your hair that is beginning to thin because of age is just not it anymore for you, and that is okay. Some people know when enough is enough, some people don't, and they hold on to their locks until they got the Stevie Wonder thing going on, which is your business, yes, but don't be looking at anybody else talking about some, why is my hair so thin, why are my locks so thin, why is half my head gone. Like, you need to do some self-reflection. And at the end of the day, you have to really decide what is the healthiest option for your scalp and for your hair. Maybe locks are not the healthiest option, and that is okay. I just ran out of space. I don't even know where I left off at, but if I was at that age, I had an older age where my locks are just not looking good anymore, I know it's just too much weight on my scalp, on my new growth, it's just not worth it. And sometimes you just need to know when it is time to cut the cord, in this case cut the locks. I just truly don't see the point in holding on to locks that clearly barely have anything to hold on to, and I'm gonna leave it at that before I say anything that can offend someone, because my mouth gets crazy sometimes and I really be holding back because I just don't want to deal with it. So that is all for this video. If you guys have any other, you know, reasons why your hair might be thinning, especially locks, or ways to prevent thinning locks, of course drop them down below. I'm only one brain and I have many brains subscribed to my channel, so obviously if we all come together, we could probably create like a whole book as to why your hair is thinning, why your locks is thinning, different ways to prevent it. But just drop your suggestions down below. I'm sure everyone else would love to hear them. And of course, if you have any questions, comments, concerns, you can drop them down below as well. And that is it for this video. Thank you guys so much for tuning in, and I will see y'all next time. Bye guys.